Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Let's Chat Reality. I'm Michael,
And I'm Molly.
and we are here today to talk season 4 of The Traitors, episode 6. I think we finally have a season here, you guys. I think we're chugging along in the right direction. And here to talk about it all with us today from Survivor 42 and The Traitors Canada season 3, it's Omar Zaheer. Omar, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. Happy to be chatting with you guys. Have you
Yeah,
been liking
so
the season? I guess you just started liking the season.
I think it's been heartbreaking for us gamer fans for the early
Mhm.
days of it, but I think that now that we've mourned sufficiently our Rob, our Tiffany, all of that, I think we finally had a really good episode. I feel like that has given me hope for the rest of the season, so I'm excited to talk about it. But Omer, we always like to start off our podcast here with getting our guests reality TV origin stories. So, what was like the first show or the first episode that you remember watching that really got you sucked into this world?
Uh, do you have a guess?
Survivor Borneo?
Yeah. Yes, I was not a pandemic convert or anything like that. I remember it was 2000, and my sister was working, and she asked me to VHS record Survivor because she was watching it and I wasn't. And at the time, you had to watch whatever you were recording. There was no other
Right.
options available. So I was sketching in my antelope book, actually, because I was making one because I like animals. And then I was just kind of like sucked in. You know, Jenna not getting the letter and crying, dramatic. Greg getting voted out and crying, but fake crying, dramatic, but thought it was real. And then there's all these fun young people and all these old and you know what? I will officially be old once I'm the age I feel of Richard Hatch and Sue Hawk on Survivor Borneo, and I'm not there yet. So I'm still in my pagong years
Yeah.
for a little bit longer, and and I was just like rooting for them to take down the villains, and they never did. But it was still fascinating. So from that moment onward, obsessed. Um, Watched pretty much everything. You know, The Biggest Loser, The Amazing Race. I didn't get into The Amazing Race till like season 4, but then I was really locked in for a while.
Hmm.
Big Brother, all of them.
Yeah. No, that I love the OG stories, the OG fans like you, and because that's me, and so I
Yeah.
relate to that heavily. So love that. But
Molly, you are you a pandemic fan?
no,
No,
yeah, well,
I started in high school, so it wasn't as OG as that, but I did start pretty early on.
Fair.
well, then of course you get on just a few years ago, Survivor 42, and then after that, you just recently, earlier this year, were on season 3 of Traitors Canada. So I'm curious to know, just as a fan, clearly of the Traitors franchise of competition reality TV in general, was being on Traitors different than you expected it to be?
I think. Well, the thing is, excuse me, sorry. Even people who are big fans of Survivor that go on the show sometimes are surprised by their experience. And it doesn't always mean the experience that they play with, but rather the experience, um, I guess, of the airing of the show, what is shown, what is not, response of the internet. I think that I was like very prepared for all of that. The only thing that kind of surprised me about my experience, but it wasn't like ground shaking for Survivor at least, was just the amount of off camera time there was. And it's not like there was that much, because if I compare off camera time on Survivor to Traitors Canada, much less on Survivor. You know, I feel like the default of Survivor is you are on camera and you are filming the show. But what I didn't realize, you know, I thought you go to tribal council, you get on a boat and you just go. I didn't know there was like a period where you stop down and you don't talk to each other. I didn't know that you would, before a challenge, sit in a tent. You know, I thought you roll up to the challenge, you're in the line, and then you go. You know,
Oh
I
yeah,
didn't
I don't think I
know
knew that
that
either.
you go into a tent and wait and do medical checks and all that kind of stuff. And I wasn't quite prepared for that part, and that was like it was really boring. But also, as an introvert, somewhat, it was a recharging time where it's like, okay, well, I'm not allowed to talk to anybody, so now I can just instead of sacrificing game time to not talk to people, I can use this time. And so then it was kind of nice. But the Traitors Canada experience, like, yeah, I had 20 years to like learn about Survivor, you know. So I that's why I think I wasn't that surprised by most of the things, including the airing back. But Traitors is a relatively new show. You can't be as you don't know as much about the goings on. And I think in some ways, when you have a background of something else, then it can be a bit of a culture shock going into a different situation. There's certain ways there's an advantage because you're immediately um, like very comfortable on camera, very comfortable talking in confessional, jumping right into the game, as opposed to you could see some of the people that had never played anything before were very like it took a second for them to get used to where they were. They were very excited just to be where they were, and it was like clearly going to be, I mean, they were like so like we're all together here, and like I already had that moment, you know, so I'm looking at them being like and they're looking at it like very different, I think, at first. So that was just but I think I was surprised by like the lack of strategizing time on Traitors. That was kind of surprising. But the other stuff like stop down before after challenge, that kind of I already kind of like understood that that was going to happen. So I think I was just more surprised by how variable everybody's strategies were. Like some people were like not understanding the metagame. Some people were too much relying on the metagame and not understanding. Some people were too into finding traders. Some people were just there for TV. I don't know. Like it was like kind of all over the place. So a lot harder to control, I feel.
Do you feel like because you play a lot of Blood on the Clock Tower as well, and do you feel like that helped you when you played the Traitors, even like, versus your Survivor experience? Like, how much did each of that kind of come into play?
I think that um, Blood on the Clock Tower would have helped me more if I was a traitor, because when
Mm.
you are on Blood on the Clock Tower, there's a moment where you find out you're on the bad team and you have to like really just like lock in and like let it go and be ready to lie to everybody and then really believe it. But when you're faithful, I honestly don't think that it helped that much. Maybe it should have, because I don't know, because the thing is the difference between Blood on the I think it actually maybe hurt a little bit in some ways, because Blood on the Clock Tower, you have a very binary goal. If you're good, it's for the good team to win, even if you don't win. Like sometimes it's better to kill yourself early. And
Mm.
the evil team, same thing. Like it's just for evil to win. But on Traitors, whichever group you're in, you're still playing for you to win. So that's like a very different win condition and very different dynamic to set up there. So I think that it probably didn't hurt, but I don't think it helped as much. And I think what it didn't, I think really, I don't know, like I felt that I should have been more prepared for being blindsided, which is ironic because I was the first time. And so when people are coming at me, I felt like I thought of the perfect thing to say, but it was like kind of like after. And in the moment, I couldn't think fast enough because I was just trying to process like, what are they doing, you know?
Yeah.
And if it had been like, we're voting you out because you are the strategic threat, I would have been like, all right. But they actually legitimately just thought I was, based on stupidity. So it wasn't even like for instance, Colton. Okay, not to like give him a lot of credit here, but I can see exactly why he thought Tiffany was a traitor. I think that he doesn't know enough, and I think that that's where the knowledge of the people that you're playing with comes in handy. Because had I been there and seen Tiffany sowing the seeds of like a gamer, it has to be a gamer killing people because, and it's Jam Jam because, you know, I would have been like, that seems like a little bit like you're projecting. However, knowing a little bit more about Tiffany, I know she wouldn't vote out Rob or Ian, you know, so or murder them. So I would know that she is being legit, whereas he doesn't know that at all. So
Right.
I can see why he thinks that. I also can see why Tiffany thinks Jam Jam is a traitor based on that information, even though they're wrong. Um, but but there's a difference between that and like the reasons they were coming after me, which were really stupid. So then I was like, I don't even know how to respond to that, because that's where I feel like this cycle of traders, both US and Canada, the gamers are really paying the invoice for what has happened before, because you would come at them with like a logical argument and then they'd be like, but you were on Survivor. And I feel
Yeah.
like they didn't really show that on this traders, and Rob and Ian getting murdered. I think that their reputation, especially with no gamers in there, they didn't want to protect them. But the other traders, or sorry, the other players, I'm sure that's a component of why they went after Tiffany. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. Well, we are halfway through the season now, which is crazy because it's only the third week technically. But Omer, what have your thoughts overall on the season been so far?
Yeah, I think I don't know. Maybe I'm a little traders fatigued, but it was a little bit slow and sad because Ian and Rob going back to back was really like a bummer,
Yeah.
and and Tiffany getting toppled was also a bummer, and it was like too much of a. It was like kind of like too triggering, like it's too much of a pile on to somebody that's like innocent, and so it started off kind of slow, but now the last episode was pretty good, and I think, but it's also like they're so caught up in the people that already have some heat on them, and usually by this point in the game, people are moving on from that kind of stuff. Like usually people are a little bit off-putting in the first, and then you can see that they're on the cusp, and then people move on to like real stuff. But what's annoying about watching these players play as well is that they're constantly like, this person brought up that person and they were wrong, so they're a traitor, not understanding that it actually is just better if a traitor shuts up and lets them eat each other. And to be wrong doesn't necessarily mean anything, like
Right.
it's not evidence. But they don't understand what evidence is, and that to me is a microcosm of society at large right now, where people think that they're so smart, jumping to conclusions that are A plus B equals something
Yeah.
random that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I think that's very, very true. Molly, you were out last week, so we haven't had getting your take on the show in a few episodes. What have you been thinking?
Yeah, I also agree with Omar. I feel like it started off slow for me, and I feel like I couldn't get into it as much as now. Like this past episode, I'm like, okay, finally, like, seems like they're taking a turn here for maybe some better strategic plays and things that they are bringing up at the table that make some more sense than others. So I think overall, I'm now enjoying it more than the beginning of the season.
Yeah. Well, the let's get into this last episode then. The episode kicks off with the players finding out if anyone took a shield at the last mission, or if nobody did, which would cancel the murder. Molly, like I said, we didn't get to hear your take last week, so just quickly, what did you would you have been tempted to take a shield? What did you think of kind of that whole twist that they had?
This cast, I feel like if I was in this specific cast, I would not want to take a shield just because of how they're all like hyper aware and like seeing everyone's actions and understanding like the shields are like so like don't do that. Like it seems like they're all frowned upon for that. So I would be scared, like be like, oh gosh, like maybe I shouldn't do it here, even though I deep down would want to protect myself in that, but I think it wouldn't be worth that risk of it being like, oh wow, now Molly needs to get voted out because she got the shield. Like that wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah, Omar, it was kind of a weird thing because it was like they made it so public. Like I almost think if they had made it a lot more in like a private area where the shield was, I would have been a lot more tempted to take it, and I think we would have maybe seen more interesting decisions.
Yeah, I think that I agree. That's a good point. I never thought about that, but they definitely should have just, even if they're going to do it in groups, make them find it on their own. So then they don't
Yeah,
know what other people's group reactions is to it, and then somebody's just going to take it because you can see Dorinda how close she is to wanting to take it. If they hadn't had a prior discussion as a group, they probably would have taken it. And so I think that shows a lot more, and then that leads to more intrigue and drama of, are they going to rat each other out about whose idea was it to do? And so I think that's just like a little game design flip that they should learn for next time.
Yes, I hope so. Well, we do quickly learn that nobody was murdered, but Omar, it feels
Which
like
is, sorry,
Colton.
as a
Yeah,
side
go ahead.
note, that is what they did on Traitors Canada.
Right. Yes.
Which, I mean, after I left, so I didn't literally the episode after, but they had the four people that were quote unquote the most trustworthy, which is also an interesting way to kind of brand it. And then when it's at the very end with the host that they're like, you can either take it and save yourself, or if nobody takes it, everybody's safe.
Hmm.
And they made their decision, and then you had to guess. So I think that was more a better way to do it.
Yeah, and it was just better because we got to see Kareen's outfit. So I mean,
Yeah, true.
but Omar, it feels like Colton would have been the murder choice if they had been able to murder. But do you think that that actually would have been the smartest move for them, or does that put too much of a spotlight on Lisa to do that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I feel like Lisa is I think it really depends where the meta is. And I think that it's interesting because I felt going into this, which is about the same time as they played, that the meta watching the show is was that that the traitors hide in the shadows a little bit, and they're not going to, and so you kind of have to at some point be a little bit loud and wrong, because even when the traitors were going after each other in season 3 of the US version, they were taking shots at each other, which ended up being correct. So it's not like and so I would have thought that the meta and was I was going to be ready to unleash blood on the clock tower and just like go after someone for no fucking reason and just get them out and be like, oops, my bad. But then I had kind of alliances with everybody, which is the problem. But then these people, like, they clearly, the US is just such a different culture than every other franchise. Like, everybody who played on Traitors Canada like had seen them and like understood and had somewhat of a strategy mindset in terms of what had happened to some extent, even if they were like insane in their behavior and reads. But on the US version, I don't think Dorinda Medley is like analyzing the game. I don't think that um, Eric Nam knows anything that's happened in the last 3 seasons. So
Not a chance.
they are clearly, and they're clearly going after anybody that says anything that's wrong. And they're like, oh, Ron is obviously wrong. Even though I think that, again, Ron was like wrong, but for the right reasons.
Yeah,
It's
he had
clearly
good
obvious to
evidence.
see.
There was literal
Yeah.
words
So
out of her mouth. So yeah.
like 4 times. So
Right.
what are you supposed to do with that? So I think that yeah. So what was the original question? Because it was very long.
No, like, would it have been too obvious for Lisa
Oh yeah,
if
yeah, yeah,
Colton
yeah.
had been murdered there?
Yeah. So I would have thought that there's so much of like, don't do it. Don't kill the person that's most oppositional to you. That would be like a good cover at this point, to be like, just kill the person that's coming after you, and then be like, they're trying to frame me. Like that. I think might be Lisa's like a reasonable option. Just is how well she can sell it. Because if she's a good actress, then she should go for it, because he's so hot on her trail that removing him, something else is going to happen that's going to distract everybody anyways. And if you have the person that's being annoying to you out, it's so easy, because he was so gunning for her, to be like, somebody's trying to frame me. So I
Mhm.
think in this case, it's not a bad choice, but I don't think that's why she was doing it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I feel like Lisa is just that type. Like you said, she's just kind of like, okay, this guy's annoying me. Like, let's just get rid of him. I don't think she's thinking like that triple bluff. She's just like, okay, he's after me. Like, we need him to go. But
yeah,
I almost feel like if somebody is coming after you as hard as Colton was, and I guess like it was this episode where it really became more obvious that he was, but I feel like at this point it's like it's so obvious that he's going after her that she should just kill him.
yeah,
Whereas if he had like said it to just like a couple of people, was kind of sneaky about it, then I think they would think, well, maybe she didn't know that he was like, we knew he was coming
yeah,
after her, so she did it to get him out because he was
yeah.
coming after her.
Agreed.
Well, on that note, Colton does start to spread his suspicions of Lisa around the castle here, and he makes his thoughts very public so that if the traitors decide to murder him, all eyes will be on Lisa. Molly, now you are a bachelor girly, so you are aware of Colton, and before going on this show, are you surprised based on what you knew about him, of how he's playing this game so far?
Well, I obviously a lot has changed since his season of The Bachelor, and the Colton of it all. But to get into the gameplay, for this move, I feel like him to be so showy. Like I was shocked that like he's so vocal. Like I didn't expect to see. First of all, I don't want to see him as much as we are seeing him on our screens, but I feel like with him being so involved in the playing of the game, we have to like it's so important in this
It's
season.
impossible not to talk
Yeah,
about
and
him. Yeah.
impossible. Yeah, so with I feel like the Lisa stuff, like I was surprised at how vocal he would be though, because I would think he would maybe want to take it a little notch down and like be more calm presence in the castle, but it's not coming off that way.
Mm-mm. I mean, I kind of feel like Omer that he is trying to be the Dylan Efron, trying to be the
Yeah.
pilot Peter, and it's like it's so obvious to me that like he just cares about getting that screen time, getting the other opportunities after this. That he does not care if he wins this game.
I think that he's. I think that honestly, I think he does think that he's gonna win, and I think that he thinks that the way to. He just comes across as so entitled, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
like you. He's like, well, how? Why would I ever sit back? I always gonna take the shot. It's like, shut the fuck up, sit down. Sometimes if you're wrong, take a step back and have some like humility, and
Yeah.
also everybody else wants to play the game too. You're not the only one. So don't act like it's so important that you get your thing out there at the expense of everybody else and act like you're entitled to have that. Like tuck your tail between your legs when you're wrong, you know, like that's just
Mm-hmm.
like normal behavior, but you're so arrogant that you are like, I don't feel bad about that and I'm gonna keep doing it. And people need to listen to me because I am the voice of reason. And it's just like, I don't know. I think it's a character flaw that's coming out in the game of he is so egocentric and thinks that his opinion matters more, or at least if that's a coping mechanism in life for whatever bullshit he has to deal with, then it's an obnoxious one, you know? Like sit down. If you're so adamant and wrong about Tiffany, the normal human thing to do is be like, I fucked up. I'll take a step back and then go back into it. Don't act as if you have the floor and you deserve the floor and everybody should bow to you. Like that's the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah, I wonder if, and I may have said, I can't remember if I said this on the pod last week or just like in my life in general, talking to people. I can't remember, but I feel like he is so used to being the lead on his show that
Hmm.
he was the Bachelor. The show was about him, and that was the last show, I believe. And then he had his own show on Netflix. So he is so used to being the center of attention that I wonder if this is kind of weird for him, and he feels like, no, this is my show. Like
Yeah,
that's a foreign concept to him at this point. So I wonder, yeah, I don't know.
that's true.
But Johnny tries to bring together. Johnny entered the show this week. So we actually, I feel like, got to see a lot more from people who we hadn't seen in the past this episode, too, which I really liked.
Hmm.
But Johnny is definitely one of those people. He tries to bring together a group of 8 faithfuls that they trust so that they have the numbers to control the banishment. They will pick a name and go with it. Now, however, there are 2 traitors in this group, Candace and Rob. So it's really only 6, I guess. But Omer, this feels like a very big brother strategy to me, to get a group of 8, a group
Yeah.
of big alliance, and just vote however, and then the opposition can't do anything about it. Do you think that
Yeah.
that can work in this show like this, or is it better to try to is it good to gamify it like that, I guess?
To be completely transparent, that's what I tried to do.
Mm,
That was my strategy going in.
okay.
You know, as soon as I kind of linked up with Venus and Ty and Kevin, very short lived because Ty was murdered immediately.
Right.
But I was like, if each of us can like grab 2 people, that's like 12 people. And votes are so scattered. we can just and the thing is it's kind of mutually beneficial because then after Ty got married, I did try to kind of do that on my own a little bit more and just try to bring people that were in a trust cluster together, but to vote together. But I'm like, even if you're like in this group like Thompson and Jericho, who I trusted, you like they're incentivized to kind of go with this plan too, because if I'm in their shoes, then if I get to the end with the gamers, then I know one of them is probably the traitor. I can just vote them out at the end. You know what I mean? Like that. And then we need people to keep us around because we're going to be the banishment targets. So it's kind of mutually beneficial. So I was kind of working on that. The problem was that you have to be really sure somebody is not going to like rat out your plan and is going to fully go with it. And the strategy times on Traitors is so short that it's really hard to shore up something that actually feels solid. If we had twice as much time as we had to speak, which is definitely possible in terms of daylight hours. I feel like there were 30-minute sessions to talk or so per day. Then you could solidify that more. But when you have 30 minutes before banishment or maybe 45, like it's hard to know exactly how long it was, but it was not long. You have that much time with 20 people. How can you, and everybody's having their own conversations. And then the illusion of the game is to get the traitor out, and that's what the majority of conversations are. It's just hard to wrangle that many people. So I think having played it now, it's easier to either just like lock that in immediately, but you have to have some familiarity with the people and know like, and it has to be something that's mutually beneficial. Or but I don't think it can be like as big as 12. And I think that, or it's something that can happen a little bit later in the game. But here, what I feel like if I had been in their position as a gamer, I would have been like, gamers and housewives, lock in, because that's 8 votes of people. You housewives know that people are going to come after them. You know that they're going to come after the gamers, and votes are usually so scattered that 8 votes is probably enough to take the day. Like that's probably what I would have done. So I do think it can work. I don't think we've seen it work very well early in the game. On Traitors Canada, it has worked later in the game, but not this early.
Yeah, because I think like the key thing that you said about what you were trying to do was that each person would get like one or two people. It's kind of the brigade, the cookout
Yeah,
strategy. And I think that that is probably better for this game than just getting like 8 people, because each person in the kind of onion strategy is like each person can feel really good, and it's like you okay, I feel really good about this person, like I will bring them in, I will be the one to work on them, versus like okay, here's 8 people, but like there's bound to be a
yeah,
traitor or two in here. Versus I
right,
think like
right.
if you got like 4 people who then can like have one person who they feel really good about, then I think you're maybe less likely to accidentally bring in a traitor or two.
Yeah. But I think you want a trader in there too, to be honest,
Oh,
like so
that's
that they
interesting.
can protect. Because the thing is also like if you have a group of 8 or whatever, and that's what I was trying to do. It's like if Kevin is the trader or end up being Venus, but I thought it was Meredith. Either way, then they can also. We might think after a while, oh, it's weird that we're all still around, but there's still 8 people to choose from. Like it's still a big group. You can still rely on people within your little cohort. That I think it is the most. I think it's the most mutually beneficial way for people to advance themselves. Um, and it also kind of makes sense for the traders to stick with that rather than because you can still hide within such a large group. But I think it is optimal to have a trader in there, at least one.
Yeah, no, now that you say that, that makes a lot of sense actually. Yeah, so that's actually probably good that they do in this
I
case,
don't think
well,
that's
even
what
though they
Johnny
didn't all
Weir is
vote together,
thinking.
so
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's what Johnny Weir is thinking, but
no,
maybe
no,
it
and
is. I don't know.
yeah, and it seems like this blew up because they all did not vote together at the end of this, but we
Yeah.
will get to that.
But the
But
game
then
is
we just,
still kind of so pure in a sense that people
yeah,
are so genuinely trying to. It's kind of like the mole, like in the first season. People didn't know what the game was, so they're genuinely like offended to be called the mole. They're actually trying to not be the mole, and then by the time you get around to the Netflix series, everyone is trying to be the mole,
yeah,
like to make everybody else think that they're the mole, to the point where the game kind of breaks. And I think that eventually the game will break on traders. Maybe not the US version as quickly because they just cast people that don't know what they're doing. But
It's like Big Brother in that sense. They just recruit people, so the game never evolves.
yes, but Big Brother's like stuck in a rut. I feel like the last season was good, but
Yeah.
before that, yeah,
Yeah. Bring back OG Mole. So good. That was my
yeah, so
favorite show.
good.
Well, then we get to the mission, which is set at Dr. Will's cabin in the woods. Do we think that Dr. Will sold this so that he could live next door to the Big Brother house?
Definitely.
Yeah, because he hasn't been seen here in years, and it's getting rusty. But the players receive a series of clues that lead to names of people buried in the cabin's graveyard. And each time the cabin door opens, two players have to go and stand by the grave that they believe to be correct. They earn $3,000. And there's also one burial site holding two shields that a pair can choose to take instead of earning the money for the pot. Now, Molly, we have seen the cabin challenges every season, but what did you think of this version of it?
Yeah, I actually liked this version. I thought it was interesting. I mean, it was felt like I was in a horror movie for part of it, but it was some good. Like I feel like the concept of it, having the partners go out and like then get the name right from the inside. Like I think it was more teamwork involved, which I liked seeing.
Mhm. Yeah, it kind of reminded me of actually going back to Big Brother. I feel like I've made a lot of Big Brother references here, but that HOH challenge that Rachel won, where it was like they were running into the rooms. I like the production quality of it. I like that, but it was. I think last season's version was like, wasn't they where they were like holding hands in
Yeah,
the bugs? I think this was
Yeah,
better than that one.
yeah,
yeah, I thought that was good too, but
Yeah,
the challenges are kind of.
yeah.
no, yeah. What do we do with the challenges on the traders somewhere? I mean, like, I feel like they're doing better this season. This one was
Yeah.
a little bit of a step backwards, I think, but like the two that we got last week, I thought were pretty good in terms of affecting the game in ways because like there were a lot of shields up for grabs. You had to like name somebody to to burn their shield. Like, I kind of felt like there was a good attempt at making them matter more.
Yeah, I think I agree that using shields or consequences in the game does make them a little bit more interesting. I do think that um, I do kind of think that the Traders Canada does challenges better than the Traders UK and the Traders
Yeah.
US because they even aside from the game mechanics of them, they just like look better. Whereas a lot of the like, remember when they were like poking the balloons with the
Oh
basketball. Like
yeah.
it just like looks so cheap. But then and like I don't know, kind of stupid. But
Yeah.
what I do like, what I think could make the game more interesting is I really think that having that's where I think like combining the mole with this would make more
Mhm.
sense because at this point there's the reason that the challenges on the mole are compelling is that or used to be compelling is that the goal was to win money, but the mole was there to sabotage them. So that's where you could actually find clues for it. So I think that having a separate traders pot or something, because what would drive me crazy is like for the first 3 seasons, people would be like, that person sabotaged us, so
But like,
they're
why
the
would they do that?
traitor.
Yeah.
Exactly, because the goal is all the same to win the money. So I'm like, well, if there actually was an incentive for them to sabotage something or take X over Y,
Mhm.
and you do get a little bit with that with the shield, but the thing is, the shield is not powerful enough to make a traitor sabotage a mission because if you know and half the time that you more than half the time you know who has the shield, so even if you didn't know who had the shield, it would make the traitors like it would make it more compelling for them to want to get the shield in their hands. Whereas if I know that Molly has a shield, who the fuck cares? There's 11 other people to murder, so it
Mhm.
doesn't really doesn't matter that much to the traders. So right now, I think there's just no differential consequences for the traders and the faithfuls playing the game, and you need to either create that with shields that are truly anonymous or with differential money incentives.
Yeah. I think what I think I said this to someone last week was that I think what they should do is like basically make each challenge pass fail. And if you pass, then there's no murder, and they get to the faithfuls get to banish two people
Yeah.
at the round table instead. So there's
Yeah.
an actual reason for the traitors to sabotage it, and I think that might solve some of those problems.
Yeah. Also true. Also
Yeah,
true.
because no one really cares about this $50,000 they're earning from this one challenge. Like, it doesn't really.
Right.
All these people are already famous. Like, they don't need
Yes,
the
already famous, and also their appearance fee sometimes more than the prize money, so they're not going to care about that. Not on Traitors Canada, on Traitors US.
Especially last season, there were 4 winners that won that split a prize of 200,000. Like, yeah, I'm sure their appearance fee was more than that, but
Yeah.
I guess that's not why they're going on, as we said. But now, Molly, during the mission, Natalie says that anyone who takes a shield will be banished tonight. What do you? This to me might have raised my alarm bells on Natalie a little bit, because only a traitor would not want people to get shields because that limits their options. What did you think about her saying that? Would that have made her look suspicious to you at all?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like obviously watching it and being in it probably have a different experience, but watching it, I would definitely think or hearing her say that, I'm like, okay, yeah, and being there too. I feel like she saying that so loudly and proudly with it too was like, okay, maybe you should watch out for this. But obviously we know that she's not. But I think it's probably not the best, especially where they're trying to work together as teams and trying to be getting the traitors, and if she's obviously not, then don't make it so vocal.
Yeah, but I think she's just been so consistent about wanting to win challenges and earn money that it's not that out of character for her. Because she's
Yeah.
been the sporty one, and the thing is, these people don't really know or understand her Survivor game at all. Clearly, and she, even in Rob's interviews, he's yeah, she was yelling at everybody about how to row the boat properly and to get money, and that's been such a focus that I think the thing about traders in general is just your behavior has to always be super consistent and the same, and anything that's outside of that, that's when it gets weird. And so even my personal experience, being sad that Kevin is banished, is a different reaction, and then they're like, oh, that's suspicious. Anything that's different is generally not good. People are not understanding of other people's emotions or anything like that in the traders, because then they'll be like, that's manipulation or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And Natalie, I feel is just somebody who I forgot, where was it, Rob maybe that said this, that Natalie was saying that, or maybe it was one of her preseason things where it was that she was saying, oh yeah, I'm wearing my athletic gear because I want to show off my muscles so that everybody knows that I'm going to be helpful in the challenges. I'm do people really care that much about that? But I feel that is what Natalie cares about. So she just kind of assumes that everybody cares about that.
I think people do, it weirdly.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel this season maybe even more so than the past. It feels challenge performance. They're oh no, we need this person for the mission. So I guess that is something that in this castle in particular that they do care about.
Yeah, even in ours, people were like, oh, we can't get rid of Dom because we can win the challenges. And it's okay, all right.
I guess to me, it just feels on this show, maybe more than any other, that it's they're gonna let you win it. They're gonna give you enough time.
Yeah.
They're not gonna let you win a prize pot of 0.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
Well, Johnny tries to get his group of 8 together to banish Colton tonight. So they try to get Rob on board, but he is reluctant since Colton trusts him. And he also expresses to Candace and some of the others that he is starting to think that Ron is actually a faithful. Now, Molly, it feels to me like Rob is doing an incredible job of acting he's a faithful. But in doing so, is he losing too much of the trust of his fellow traitors?
Yeah, this is the start of where I was like, okay, Rob, there's a line to T over here, and I feel he's crossing it a little bit too much, but I think because no one suspects him as a traitor, it's doing fine. He's fine to do it right now because he obviously wants to work closely with his faithfuls that he's close with, but then his traitors Candace and Lisa are then going to get mad, obviously, of being okay, well, you have to be on our side too. You can't just be on the faithful side. So I think, this conversation, obviously, I think he handled this one well. But I mean, later on we can talk about other conversations he's talking about. But I think I'm enjoying seeing Rob's strategy here. I think it does make sense for him not to be suspected.
Yeah, I feel like he's just I would never suspect him. If I was a faithful, I would be like, yeah, that's a person I can cross off my list. Like he's doing such a good job, but I do worry that at some point that, and I guess this depends on if Lisa's going to be here for a while longer, but I do worry that at some point Candace and Lisa are going to be like, he's not on our side.
Hmm. Well, the thing is, if you are a trader, honestly, the best strategy is to not target the other traders, especially this early,
Yeah.
because the thing that the thing that the thing that's annoying about this game is that it's so much about an investigation of who is this, who is that, and everyone throws around the word evidence so loosely, but there are no fingerprints, there are no murder weapons, there are no black light stains, DNA, none of that. So there's actually no evidence anywhere, almost at any time. The
Yeah.
only actual evidence that you have is when you unmask a traitor. And even seeing, and I'm sure it's like amped up for the TV drama purposes, but Lisa's reaction to Rob voting for her, it's like an extra little gut punch compared to when other people voted for her. And if people are keen and like pick up on that, that's where the thread starts to get pulled. And that's where it gets dangerous. Like the best case scenario if you're a trader that wants another trader out is to like let other people do it, and not really be a part of it or be the last vote on the pylon, not one where it's like this close. And so if anything's going to get him, it's going to be this, because even if they knock out Lisa as a trader, if she is particularly hard on him about it, which maybe she will be, maybe she won't be, um, it's going to point in his direction, and Candace may come after him, and are they at that point, he is probably in a more vulnerable position than she is, because people are going to probably suspect him before a second housewife. Um, so yeah, I think he's got to be careful with that.
Yeah. Well, then we get a scene here where Colton pulls Lisa aside and tries to hold her hostage by saying he will protect her at the round table if she'll protect him in the turret. Now, Lisa is adamant here. She just keeps repeating, I'm a faithful. I'm a faithful. Now, Omar, in your season of Traitors Canada, you similarly seemed confident about Coco being a traitor, especially after Kevin left. And it seemed like that she knew that you were onto her as well. Talk to me a little bit about how you decided to handle being in that situation versus how Colton is handling
Um, well, his ended better than mine.
it.
But I
Sadly.
would say, I think it's I just think it is situational. And I think, interestingly, despite the end outcome, there was a lot more on Coco than there was on me. Or sorry, on Lisa at this point.
Yeah.
So I think it's an interesting thing to do, but you have to be more subtle about it. Like we've seen people do that. Like he's not doing it in a way to engender trust. If you really are going to do that, then you might as well sidle up to the person and make them feel comfortable and not do what he did. You know what I mean? Like that's what I did with Kevin, and I tried to do with Meredith. And if it was and Venus was on my suspect list, but it's like, I didn't actually really think more than 2 or 3 times whether Venus was a traitor, because it didn't matter to me if she was. Like I kind of wish she was. Like she wasn't a problem for me. So from that perspective, I think more subtlety is probably usually the better way to go about it, because you can get that protection that you're looking for with a traitor angel. But by being so overt, like it's kind of insulting, because Lisa can't actually say anything. It's literally against the rules. Like you will be ejected from the game if you reveal that you are a traitor. So it's not, and you also cannot pretend to be a traitor. Like as a
Oh,
faithful, you can't
really?
say I'm a traitor,
Okay. Yeah.
as a strategy at
Mhm.
all, or imply that you're like, you can't do that. So you also can't swear on your life, which I feel like
Oh,
people do.
but you can, I guess, swear on your grandchildren's
I don't.
lives?
I think that they're like, you can't swear on anything, like
Oh, didn't
God or
Danielle do that?
yourself. Well, the thing is, I don't know. There's a different set of rules.
Maybe, yeah.
but also maybe that's why they adopted it. Like I don't know.
Mm.
Uh,
Um, and that because it was like very clearly written in there that you couldn't do that kind of stuff. Although I don't think it was like enforced. But I don't know. Like for him for Coco, like in that situation, I was like, you have a couple options. One is to double down and just go for her, or make amends and then just don't bring it up again, or do the thing of like, okay, now you're my traitor angel and let's work together. And the thing is, the third option was not going to work for Coco. I thought about it, but afterwards I asked her and she's like, no, it was too far in at that point. We had to go after each other. And B, the things that they were looking for were changes in behavior and changes in shift in momentum. And I'm like, if I was going for Coco so hard 12 hours ago, if I all of a sudden don't think it's her anymore, like that's really weird behavior. And it was so obvious it was her based on everything that Kevin said that, just from a logical perspective, it should be her that goes. So it's not like it's groundbreaking for me. I thought the safest thing was actually to just go and lean into it and keep on that because it doesn't change what I'm doing. And it doesn't, and it so clearly should be her that there's not like there's only evidence on her. So I'm like, okay, well that's the best option. But for me, I don't think doing anything different would have changed it from that perspective. But that was situational. I think that for Colton, you know, I kind of like the notion, but like it was poorly executed.
Yeah, Molly, I mean, that's kind of how I feel too. Is like I feel like he was onto something. Like there's something there, but I think he went too hard as her adversary versus
Yes.
being like, I can help you and you can help me. And like if I know you can't say anything, but if I'm right, here's what I'm willing to do if you're willing to do this. Like I feel like going in as her friend maybe would have had a better reaction from her.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like you don't want to work with someone who's like against you. And he came in that way, like obviously knowing that, like thinking that she is a traitor and being so strong on it, but then not even wavering his thoughts in it in their conversation and like coming on that in that way. Like it's not someone you want to work with.
Mhm. And
Right.
also, in the event he was wrong, like hypothetically, he's already been wrong. He's been so sure about Tiffany. If he's wrong, he's setting himself up for a murder to
Mhm.
frame her,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
by being so adversarial. And if he was gonna already be adversarial, then the approach to take with her is like, look, if we keep going down this road, we're both gonna get taken out. So we might as well just have a peace treaty. Like that would be the better way to go about it. But whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But that wouldn't have gotten him as much TV time, and so it may not have accomplished his goal.
And also,
But
this is like not like maybe that works for a gamer. That doesn't work for Lisa Rinna.
Lisa F. and Rinna. Yeah. Well, then we get to the round table, and the focus first lands on Ron, as it is typically does. And it feels like he came into this round table just completely defeated. Just completely, he had given up. And he assumed that he was going to get banished going into it. Multiple people mentioned that getting out Ron, it would give them answers, regardless of if he's revealed to be a faithful or a traitor. So, Molly, what did you think of that logic? Like, after so many roundtables where he's had a spotlight on him, is it better to just get him out at this point, get him out of the equation, or should they have just given up on that theory and shifted their focus elsewhere?
Yeah, I was so sad to see Ron so defeated here. I feel like he was obviously like in the beginning when we were saying it with him targeting Portia, like he had valid points to try to go for Portia there, and then for just everyone to flip and say, oh, because he's was wrong about that, he's a traitor. Like, and then they kept on that. Like I thought they would drop it. Like at this point, I was like, okay, like you still think he's a traitor here? Like we obviously hear like Rob kind of changing his mind, and other people are like, okay, maybe not. But it seemed like because they had gotten to this point, like it was kind of like the point of diminishing return or whatever. It's like you just have to have to keep going and like and try to do it. I guess at this point is what their thought was. And I was sad for that because I wanted it to be gone. But like, of course, it's part of the game. Like they had to still try for him.
Hmm. Yeah, Omer, this kind of reminded me of like the coffin theory last season, where it
Hmm.
was like
Yeah.
it just kept getting brought up over and over again, and at some point it was like, okay, we got to get rid of you, Sierra, just because you're the last remaining member of that, and
Yeah.
we have to know something.
Yeah. It's because nobody wants to be like, in the case you are wrong, fooled by something you already kind of knew.
Yeah,
And like, so it does make sense. I mean, I felt that way because early on in our season, Inshallah was kept getting brought up, and I didn't really think that much by the end that it could be them, although I was still on like not on the eliminated suspect list. But I even said the day I left, I was like, there's just like no way anyone's gonna let them get to the end now because it's just too risky. You
yeah.
know, you don't want to be that person that let that slide the whole time. Um, and so yes, I do get their reasoning for that. But again, I think that they think that they're gonna unravel everything just from that, and he's not connected enough to do that, you know?
Mhm.
Like, for instance, if you pull on, Lisa, then you see her reaction to Rob, like maybe you'll kind of get a little chain going there. But Ron seems so socially isolated from everybody that I don't think it is. But also, when there's this many people, you don't want to piss everybody off. Sometimes it's easy to just vote for the person that nobody's going to put a fuss about either.
Yeah, like it might be a waste of a round table, but at
Yeah.
least it wasn't you. So
Yeah.
just kind of get through the night.
I mean, that's why I voted for Asvir. Like, I didn't think he was a traitor, but he was useless to my game. So I was like, and nobody
Right.
wants, like, whatever, just who cares?
Yeah, exactly. Well, then Ron goes, eventually, he goes around the table and thanks everyone. He says nice things about them. And while he was doing this, Natalie was whispering, like, I don't think he's a traitor. And then Tara interrupts to say, like, I think we're getting it wrong, you guys. But Omer, did you get the sense that, like, Ron was being genuine with this? Or had he, like, and really had given up? Or was he kind of conducting his own version of Dan's funeral?
I I do think it was genuine because he just seemed so exhausted by the experience emotionally. You can see a little bit of that in the social media afterwards. Like, didn't sound like a fun experience for him in many ways. So I do think, and when you are like beaten down, these are long days that you're filming. Like, you're not getting that much sleep. You're always, even when you're off camera, you're like ready to be on camera at any moment. You have limited time to talk to people, and to be misunderstood by so many people is exhausting. And I'm sure it was just easier to be like, just you'll see it when I'm out that you're wrong, and that's it is what it is. So I do believe it.
Yeah. I mean, Molly, I kind of believed it too, but I feel like it also kind of worked in his favor almost. Like he almost stayed.
I know. I did believe it too. I felt like he was being very genuine there. And then I also was wondering if that would then sway people's opinions. But I think, like, obviously, I think more, it was a little close vote, but like more people were still trying to go for him there. But I thought it could have worked.
Yeah, I mean, call him Ron Giesling. If that worked, my God, that would have quite been quite something. But then we also get a couple of other names brought up here, specifically Colton. Kristen swings the conversation onto him, and a bunch of people jump in to agree. Eric said that he feels like a puppet, one of Colton's puppets, and there's a discussion about the fact that Ron is still taking so much heat for leading the charge against Portia, but Colton hasn't been getting the same heat for leading the charge against both Tiffany and Michael. So, Molly, why do you think that up until this point there had been such a discrepancy?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so annoying to think about how different they are like weight in that because it's like they're just pretty much the same. Like, in the grand scheme of it, like they're all players in the same game and the votes out should that are wrong should look the same as all of them like that are faithful. So, I feel like it's not equal like the cast isn't weighing it the same. And now like hearing it against Colton, obviously I was like, yes, let's do it. Like get Colton out. But I think that they still just wanted to stick to their guns there.
Mm-hmm. Omer, do you think that it's true what Ron was saying about the fact that, well, because we didn't like Michael, that didn't count for them?
I mean, I think yes to some extent because the thing is, firstly, PSA. Michael should have never been on the season. He's a horrible person.
Yes.
Like, literally, you know, it's funny to me that NBC put out a statement today being like, or this week being like, we want to make the environment safe for all of the players. You didn't do that when you put Michael on the show.
Yeah.
And the amount of hatred that that man puts out there, and misinformation and lies, and the way he speaks about specifically brown people and Muslim people especially, but also other groups as well, is just so beyond disgusting that it was honestly hard to even watch the show at all to support it in any way, because but it is something that, and especially relevant nowadays, is where we are in society in how people view people like me. You know what I mean? Like, it is so okay to platform and give a major, like, that didn't even flag them on their social media checks at all, because they didn't think it was important at all what he was saying. But if he had spoken that way about other minority groups, or and maybe not all, because as you can see what's happening now, it's not restricted to one kind of minority, but if he had said that about certain other groups or anything else in this day and age, or said the N-word or anything like that, none of that would ever be allowed on this sort of platform. But there's such little regard, even though the things that he was saying are just as bad, if not worse in some ways, than some of the other things that people don't get put on shows for nowadays. Like, he's like truly the bottom of the barrel humanity wise, and the fact that they even put him on is like so disgusting. And I think that people saw a side of him on the show where that did come out a little bit. Not exactly maybe that, but you know, he's a hateful, stupid man, and they all saw that and were tired of it. And so, and when you have that kind of energy around all the time, where it just sucks the air out of the room, it probably was a huge relief to see him go, regardless. I think a lot of people that voted for him probably didn't even think he was a traitor. They just wanted him gone. So it didn't really matter. So I think in his situation, that's definitely true, and also fine. Like, that he shouldn't have even been on the show. For Tiffany, I think it is interesting because, yeah, Tiffany was like, I think that's more similar to the Portia situation. Yeah. But I think really what it comes down to is social standing. On Survivor, it was very clear, when you got into people who were on the top and on the bottom, and how they could act. I'm not saying that I was lazy around camp, but like, I wasn't that useful around camp, and I didn't really do that much. I kind of did enough to get by, but was I ever put in the category of like super lazy? No. Were the people on the bottom? Yes. Would the people on the bottom be allowed to strategize in the same way as everybody else? No, because they'd be looked at under a microscope, being like, they're being so sneaky. It's like, yeah, they're playing the game just like you, but you don't think they should be, because you're not viewing them on the same level. And it was very easy for me to see that, because I do think that, like, I don't know, I was always the very quiet kid in school and like growing up that never was able to like speak up for themselves. So when I saw other people going through something, I could easily identify that, because it's like, I don't want them, or I would go try to make them feel better. You know what I mean? Like, that was what I would do. And like on the down low, because it's like, I don't think anybody should feel excluded. But so I could see that when Chanel, Romeo, Tori, Marianne, they're not allowed to behave in the same way or get away with the same stuff. And now it's a situation where I'm at the top. I can either, it's a game for $1 million. Do you, not participate, but like not go out of your way? And so I thought, for me, if it gets kicked out of the game, I don't really care. Like, I'm going to go have a conversation with Chanel about her family at home. Like, it's not that big of a deal to me. I'll do it in public. So it's not like I'm pulling her to the well, but I will still give her that basic respect. But other people did not do that. And that's a very common thread in this game. You see it on the Big Brother live feeds all the time.
I was about to say that, yeah.
You see it play out. And so on Traitors, it's the same concept. Ron is clearly, for whatever reason, is socially an outcast or on the bottom. And some of that has to do with everybody else. A lot of that, I'm sure. Some of that has to do with him. Some of that has to do with Portia standing. It all is like multifactorial and comes together and to be the reality of the situation. Colton, that's not the case. He has a bunch of minions, you know? So it's easy. And also, you know, it's probably easy for Colton to be who he is and stand up and be like command respect in a way because of simply also because of who he is. Whereas Ron can't necessarily do that in some ways. Like, not, and I'm not saying that's the only reason, but that is, it all factors into why somebody may have the confidence to come out of the bottom or not. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is that Ron can get away, or Colton can get away with what Ron can't, because Colton is not at the bottom of the social hierarchy.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And just for a second to go back to what you were talking about at the beginning, I want to say thank you, Omer, for always using your platform for good to spread light to things, causes that you care about, and a lot of public figures do not do that. So I always appreciate seeing that, and what you even talked about it on your last roundtable, which I thought was a very touching conversation. So
Yeah,
just
thank
thank you
you.
for doing that. But then back to lighter topics. So Colton then at the round table says that if they are looking for another name, that he thinks Lisa is a traitor. So he finally, then we get this moment where he does end up bringing Lisa up here. And the biggest point against her for a lot of people, it seems like, is that first vote where she voted for Portia, aka against a housewife, in her first chance to do so. So Omer, do you think that Lisa vote would have raised red flags for you in that moment?
Excuse me, sorry. I think yes and no. I think it's very sound logic. Like, when you have so little to go on, that's actually something very good to go on. And I think that, from my perspective, as a faithful with a gamer conglomerate around me, I can relate to that situation of being a faithful at a round table. I'm not, especially the first one, I'm not going to vote for somebody that I know or is in that family, especially if I don't know right away. And so I do get that. On the other hand, that's a very gamer like mentality that doesn't necessarily always transcend to other like franchises, but housewives notoriously do stick together. So I do get that. But then on the other flip side of that, Portia was, I think the case against her was very strong. Like, she literally messed up her words 4 times. It's not like it was once. It's not like it was twice. Her defense wasn't very good. It Then you're in a situation where, okay, if you are in that group, can you, and you're trying not to be like, we have to play the game and not just stick with each other. You know, that's a pretty compelling reason to do that. But I do think ultimately, especially being a member of the franchise for as long as Lisa has been, like, it's not like she's like a newer person or like is not that connected. She's deep. I mean, I don't know, maybe she's not really in the Bravo world anymore, but
Not the last
regardless,
few years, but yeah.
yeah, I think it is a red flag.
Yeah. It's interesting to me to see Lisa defend herself, Molly, because she just kind of keeps repeating, I'm a faithful, I'm a faithful. But, like, she doesn't really say anything of substance. But, like, I guess she does seem passionate about it. So, I don't know, like, would you be looking at her? And it's hard to say, because we know. So, I feel like it is hard to put ourselves in that situation. But, like, would you be looking at her being like, you're not really doing a good job here?
Yeah, I think so. Like, if she doesn't really have much evidence to prove on, like, why she's not a traitor, if she's just trying to say that she is a faithful, I think that would definitely raise some red flags for me. Like, even watching it, maybe it's part of the edit. I don't know entirely. Like, we weren't there in the situation. Maybe she did share some more information that we're not seeing. But just based on what we're seeing her say, like, it doesn't seem like the faithfuls should really totally believe that she is a faithful.
And it's so weird to me because, like, she's been on how many reunions of Housewives? It's like she can defend herself, she can argue, and like it just feels like she should be better at this than she is. Maybe she's rusty because she hasn't done it in a few years, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting thing with Lisa is that I do think that in general, it's harder to find a traitor than it is to eliminate non-traitors. Like, it's
Mm.
like very clear when somebody's not a traitor. And so you can kind of narrow down your list, and then that's where it's the smartest way to kind of use the meta as well. It's like, okay, these people are kind of off the list. Now I'm looking at these people who are not cleared or a little bit suspicious, and she is a housewife. And if I was thinking from that perspective, she'd be a good one because she's a big personality. And so I think that narrowing in on her and then hearing that kind of defense, I probably would think it was her too.
Yeah. Yeah, you would think so. I'm curious to see, especially now that, I mean, we'll get to it, but like with her having to now perform this murder in plain sight, that could very easily go wrong and make her look suspicious. I wonder if
I
that will
forgot
be
the rules
considered
for it. What are the rules for this murder in plain sight again?
So she has this, what is it called? Her,
Roach?
was it? They didn't call it a brooch. What did they call it? Hold on, I have it here. Her amulet. That's
Oh,
what they call it.
amulet.
And so she has to wear it on her outfit and then get somebody to touch it. And whoever touches it will be murdered. So
That's so obvious. She's gonna get caught. This is a mistake for her to be that person.
Yeah, right. But like, who else could do it? I mean, I guess Candace could maybe, but like, Rob can't do it. What is he going to put his amulet on?
Yeah, like, do they have to touch it on her, or can she like drop it and then they pick it up?
That's what. I'll shout out Matt Lagori from Free Agents. That's what he was saying. I know was his idea was that she should just like put it on not very well and then have it drop and then say, "Oh, can you pick that up for me?" I wonder though if that would count or whether it has to be on her.
They can put it back on her for her.
Right, yeah. I don't know. It's gonna be hard for her to do, and I feel like especially because so many eyes are already on her. Like I don't know how they do that. I just feel like they should at this point just give up and say no murder. Sorry, we can't do it.
Yeah, I think in her position, yeah, she should just like refuse to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I would feel like I don't know if they can do that. I feel like I wonder if the producer like you got to try. You got to at least give it a good effort. I don't know, but before we get there, let's kind of get to the votes here because it was an interesting vote. There was a very close vote. So there were 4 votes for Colton, which was Tara, Lisa, Johnny, and Kristen. I guess Tara, Johnny, and Kristen were the only ones from that alliance to actually hold their vote on Colton.
Candace should have done it too. Why didn't she do it?
Yeah, Candace voted for Ron, which I guess
she had been
sense because she had been speaking up against Ron for a while. I think that would have looked weird if she didn't do that, right?
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Then there were 5 votes for Lisa, Ron, Colton, Eric, Natalie, and of course Rob. So Molly, what did you think of Rob's vote here? Do you think that he made the best choice for his game to go against a traitor here, or was this vote too close for him to do this?
I think for like obviously it's not good to go against the traitor, but for Rob's game, I think it does make sense because he's so close at this point with Ron and Colton that like for other faithfuls to believe he's still faithful, like he couldn't have voted for either of them. It seemed like, but and then for them to be wrong that they weren't traitors. I think. I don't know, but I was nervous. I was like watching this happen. I was like, oh my gosh, who is Rob going to vote for? Because I had a feeling that he was going to go for Lisa. And then there was could be some repercussions from that. But I feel like Lisa could forgive him in some ways, hopefully, that like they can work it out. And it's still like kind of early on. It's not like they're later in the game, but I don't know. It was still a really close call because he was hoping that there'd be more votes for Ron still and not be that close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Omar, it felt to me like he was so I don't know. I guess we did get in this episode him saying how close he was with Ron and Colton. But I feel like before this wasn't something I was aware of at least. And so to me in this moment, it's like, would it have felt that suspicious for you to vote for one of them? Or like, did you feel like it would have been a mistake?
I think it's hard because it's either going against a traitor or your alliance. I mean, I think this probably is that they were close because, especially having played, like, there's so many relationships that don't get shown on the show that are like very big, huge plot lines that are not relevant to the end game story are left off the table. Mm-hmm. Like they didn't show a single conversation between myself and Thompson, but we were like locked in, so but he was murdered. And then I was banished the same, like it didn't go anywhere, but it was important in the first half of the game, but it just wasn't relevant to the story. So I think that they probably were close and they just didn't show it. But I agree that the thing that's going to bring the most suspicion off of him or onto him in that situation, especially if Lisa gets unveiled as a traitor, is if he randomly goes against his alliance when he's always voted with them. So I do think that that does make sense, but then also it puts him in a very, like, if you take the shot on the traitor and you miss, and there's two housewives now in there, not a good situation. I think if he could have tried to prevent this collision course earlier, he should have done that.
Yeah. Well, and then everyone else does vote for Ron, which means he had six votes and is banished. And he, of course, stands and reveals he's a faithful. And then Alan reveals to everyone that they will be attending a banquet tonight. Now, then, when they were still at the table and then back again at the castle, Lisa and Colton just continue to kind of go back and forth. And Lisa says basically that her housewife's persona shouldn't be an expectation that she's going to be like this in the castle, and that her not being like that, that's how she is in real life. She's not like that in real life. So you can't expect that she's going to be like that here. Now, I don't know how familiar either of you, I guess, really were with Lisa Rinna before this, but Omar, do you think that like having those expectations for someone that you're familiar with going into the game is more helpful to you because you kind of know what their normal baseline is, or hurtful because it might kind of make you biased?
I think you can go either way. I think the thing is, and if anybody locks in one way or another, then that's what's the mistake. But you have to take every piece of evidence with a grain of salt to some extent and use it as like a summation rather than one thing or the other. And I think that sometimes what is useful is knowing what somebody's like in real life. Like, Kevin's energy was like a little bit off, and I knew him in real life, so I was like, I think you're
Right.
I mean, the metagame as well. I was like, if it's not me, it's probably him. But his behavior after Traitor's designation was very distracted and not paying attention to what I was saying, just kind of like thinking off into the distance while we're having a conversation. And I'm like, that's not normal behavior. So, knowing that contextually can be helpful. But on the flip side, it can be unhelpful. Like Venus, she was kind of quiet throughout the house and kind of at round tables as well. And I didn't really care that much whether she was or not. But one thing that made me think she wasn't was that, her whole thing was she wanted to like make friends this time. And knowing that she had a really hard experience the first time. And then when she's telling me, like before Traitor designation, she's like, yeah, I want these people to like me. So then I was like, okay, that could explain this behavior, whereas she didn't open up to other people that way that early. So they wouldn't know that, so they could base their own opinions. So I think it can go either way.
Yeah. Well, then we get a flashback to the night before of Alan telling the traitors in the turret that they are going to perform a murder in plain sight at tonight's banquet, as we mentioned earlier. And he gives them an amulet that one of them have to wear and get a faithful to touch it. Now, Molly, I guess we discussed this a little bit already, but do you have any ideas for strategy of how Lisa, who we know will be the one to do this, what she should do in order to have this murder in plain sight happen?
Yeah, it feels like it's gonna be so obvious. That's why, like, it's crazy that they have to do this, but I guess it's a good thing because the traders get by easily sometimes. So I think it's gonna be interesting to see if they can drop it. If she can drop it, if that theory is true, that could be something that could help her get away with it. But I feel like it's gonna be either everyone's just like no one's around, so no one else really sees it. But I feel like someone's gonna catch on.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like even though Candace, maybe her outfit or something like, it doesn't scream Candace, this amulet, as much as it screams Rinna. I don't know, Omer. I feel like maybe they should have just figured out a way to give it to Candace.
Yeah. Or make Rob wear it on his head like a snake charm or something. I don't know. I think the thing is, for their individual game, like Lisa should not have said yes to this, and she was kind of into it. It's just not smart for her at all. But also, if she were to play it smart, she should just wear it, and then if it happens organically, it happens organically, and if it doesn't, there's no murder or whatever.
Yeah, maybe that's the move. It's like if she sees an opportunity, then do it. If not, then just kind of let status quo be, and don't risk anything to make it too obvious and get caught. But
you could also like
well,
flip this and then have somebody correct it.
oh yeah.
I don't know. Like,
Yeah. I don't know. I'm curious to see because it's been teased this episode so much. From preseason, Alan has been teasing this banquet this episode as being like the craziest thing he's ever seen happen on the Traitors. So
oh really? Oh,
something, yeah. So something's gonna happen here. I mean, we even see in the little preview that like two people will walk off crying or something. It looked like so. Something happens, and I'm looking forward to seeing what that is. But let's do predictions here. Who do we each think is going to be murdered in plain sight? Do either of y'all have any guesses?
Oh.
If anyone, I guess.
I'm worried for
feel like-
Natalie.
Oh, Natalie. Okay.
Ooh.
I could see Maura because she's like into fashion stuff. I feel like she could maybe be convinced, and sometimes she's not really paying attention. So,
Yeah, I
Or
could see
Jam
Lisa
Jam.
being. I could see her being like, "Oh, this is like, isn't this so beautiful? It's something that like my mother used to wear." Like, to someone like a fashion girly like Maura. Like, I could see maybe trying to bond with someone like that. I don't know.
but I feel like Rob is too close to Maura, so maybe he would be like so against that. But he wouldn't really have a say if it's on Lisa. So maybe Lisa would do that to combat against Rob.
Right. And that's what like the thing is like you're giving that person a lot of power who's wearing
A lot.
it.
Yeah.
Because they could do anything. And I almost fear most for the people sitting right next to them. So that's going to be interesting to see who Lisa sits by because that's probably the most people most in danger because that's going to be the easiest for her. So yeah. We will see. But Omar, so you are going to be our first guest here as we end the podcast. We were doing a thing this year. So last year we did our first Chatty Awards ceremony, and this year we are going to be adding a guest choice nomination. And Omar, now we are only 4 weeks into the year, so this is not going to be a few options for you here, but any character from any player and anyone that you have watched on reality TV so far in 2026 that you would like to nominate as your star of the year, that we will then get all of our guests' nominations and decide who we then decided to be the winner at the end. But do you have a nomination?
Well, I'm going to say Rob Cesternino.
Of
It's
course.
his big return to TV. He got robbed by the conga line, and he deserves some credit. And if I'm the only one that does it, then at least it was my nomination.
I love it. I think we can just declare him the winner, right, Molly? I mean, like, why keep going here? But okay. Good choice. Well, Omar, with that, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you being here and have loved chatting Traitors with you. So anything to plug, anywhere that our listeners can find you on social media?
I'm on Instagram, Zaheer24, Twitter sometimes, Omar Zaheer DVM, and I am trying to do Blue Sky, just kind of like on and off. And then Chat BCC is where I'll chat about Traitors live on the episode when I can.
Yes, Chat BCC is very fun. We get a lot of behind the scenes info, a lot of arguments. The last recently, so you never know what you're
arguments. So I can't. I'm, you know what? And the thing is, I don't care about these people, like Survivor people, so I can say whatever I want.
Yeah, we love it. Well, thank you guys so much for listening or watching on YouTube. Be sure to follow us at Let's Chat Reality on all social media and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And we will be back to chat more Traitors next week. So we will talk with y'all then. Bye, everyone.
Bye.